I arrived at the dilapidated farmhouse on a crisp autumn morning, the rising sun casting long, tentative shadows over sprawling fields and dense woodlands beyond. Tired of the relentless noise and chaos of city life, my partner Jacob and I had purchased this isolated farmstead with dreams of restoring it to its former glory, a sanctuary where we could rediscover peace and rebuild our lives together. The house, over a century old with its weathered clapboards and sagging porches, seemed to whisper secrets of a past long forgotten as I stepped off the car. Driving up the winding, unpaved road, I couldn't shake the feeling that the landscape itself was watching us. Its quiet intensity was both inviting and unnerving. Jacob, ever the optimist, reassured me that every creak of the old floorboards would soon be replaced by the sounds of our new life. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, I began to imagine the possibilities of transforming this relic into a warm home. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of activity, painting walls, repairing broken fixtures, and clearing overgrown brush. Amid the satisfaction of our progress, subtle disturbances began to unsettle me. One dawn, while surveying the land, I found a set of fresh, uneven footprints at the edge of the woods. They led into a thicket, vanishing as if swallowed by the undergrowth. At night, the silence was punctuated by strange sounds, a rustling that didn't belong to the wind, and distant footsteps echoing around the house. Determined to uncover the source, Jacob and I set out one evening. Armed with a flashlight and a growing sense of foreboding, we followed a trail of deep, deliberate footprints leading toward the brambles. The trail abruptly ended, as if the intruder had dissolved into the darkness, leaving us with more questions than answers. My curiosity soon turned into an obsession. I spent hours in the attic, sifting through dust-covered trunks and forgotten relics. In a battered, leather-bound diary hidden among yellowed letters and brittle photographs, I discovered the desperate entries of Lydia, a young mother who once called this farmhouse home. Her frantic handwriting recounted encounters with unexplained figures roaming the fields at dusk, a presence in the woods watching her family, and a creeping dread that nothing could dispel. Determined to learn more, Jacob and I visited the local library in the nearest town. There, in archived newspapers and public records, we uncovered that Lydia's family had vanished under mysterious circumstances one bitter winter. Locals had whispered rumors of curses, of ancient rituals gone awry, and of a malevolent force lurking in the surrounding forest. With every piece of the puzzle, the farmstead seemed to pulse with a secret history, one that refused to be silenced. As autumn deepened into winter, the disturbances grew bolder. One cold, moonless night, I awoke to the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. Heart pounding, I crept to the door and peered into the darkened corridor. At its far end, a shadow moved with deliberate intent, before disappearing through a door I knew led to the unused barn. Jacob was soon roused by my alarm, and together we scoured the barn. In the flickering beam of a lantern, we discovered muddy boot prints leading to a hidden, iron-bound door behind a stack of broken crates. With trembling hands and pounding hearts, we pushed the door open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Each creak of the stairs deepened my dread as we descended into a small, dust-laden room that seemed to have been forgotten by time. Among old tools and broken furniture, one object caught my eye. A faded family portrait. The somber faces in the picture, their eyes filled with silent pleas, struck me as both haunting and sorrowful. Scratched into the wall behind the portrait were cryptic symbols and a date matching the winter when Lydia's family had disappeared. I ran my fingers over the inscriptions, a chill running through me. Jacob's expression mirrored my own disbelief, as we realized we had stumbled upon a hidden chapter of the farmstead's troubled past, one that hinted at a curse or an unseen force orchestrating tragedy. In the days that followed, the presence around the farmhouse grew unmistakably closer. Objects moved inexplicably from their places, and drafts swept through sealed rooms. At dusk, as the woods melted into an eerie twilight, I began to see a figure at the tree line, a vague silhouette in dark fabric, silently watching. Even when I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, the feeling of being observed never quite left me. One evening, while Jacob tended to the garden, I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping at the window. Peering out into the dense forest, I saw nothing. Yet the sound persisted like a gentle, unyielding knock. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a faint, mournful whisper, a word repeated over and over, that vibrated with sorrow and a warning I couldn't quite decipher. Desperate for answers, I arranged a meeting with some of the town's older residents. At a dimly lit local diner, I met Mr. Carver, a retired schoolteacher with memories that stretched back to Lydia's time. In hushed tones, he recounted the farmhouse's dark legacy, a tale of isolation, heartbreak, and inexplicable disappearances. He told me that Lydia's husband had been rumored to dabble in forbidden rituals, attempting to harness forces he barely understood. The locals believed that the very land was cursed, its ancient energies twisted into something vengeful. Armed with this unsettling new perspective, Jacob and I returned home with a plan. We gathered Lydia's diary, the old family portrait, and local lore that Mr. Carver had shared. In our living room, we arranged these relics in a circle, determined to piece together the mystery and find a way to appease the restless force haunting our new home. On a stormy night, with rain lashing against the windows and thunder echoing across the barren fields, we began our quiet vigil. We recited passages from Lydia's diary, our voices trembling as we read words of despair and hope into the charged air. As the storm intensified, the room grew cold and heavy, the artifacts pulsating with a strange, almost sentient energy. Then, in the midst of that oppressive silence, a figure materialized at the far end of the room. It was Lydia herself, her translucent form exuding sorrow and longing as her eyes met mine, silently pleading for release. For a brief, breathtaking moment, the air filled with the scent of wildflowers and the soft strains of a long-forgotten lullaby. And just as suddenly, she faded into a swirling mist at our feet. In that instant, I felt as though a weight had been lifted, a silent acknowledgement that her restless spirit had been heard and, perhaps, finally put to rest. In the weeks that followed, the inexplicable disturbances began to fade. The nighttime footsteps became rare, and the strange noises that once filled the house dissolved into a quiet background hum. Though the farmhouse still carried an undercurrent of mystery, a peaceful calm had replaced the pervasive dread. Jacob and I meticulously documented every detail of our experience, determined to preserve the land's history and the story of Lydia's family. We even reached out to local historians, organizing a small memorial on the property as an acknowledgement of the past and a gesture toward healing. As winter melted into spring, the isolated farmstead transformed under our care. New life blossomed among the old walls, and while the lingering shadows of history still whispered in quiet corners, I often found solace in the knowledge that we had faced our fears and embraced the truth of this place. Years later, the farmhouse became a quiet legend in the area. Neighbors spoke of our bravery and our willingness to confront the mysteries that lay hidden in the past. Visitors admired the serene beauty of our restored home, unaware of the turbulent history that had once haunted its every corner. On quiet evenings, as I sat on the porch at dusk, I sometimes caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in the distance, a silent watcher, as if eternally bound to the land and to the memory of those who came before. This journey taught me that while the past can cast long shadows, confronting it can lead to healing and renewal. The legacy of the isolated farmstead, with all its sorrow and mystery, had ultimately become a cherished part of my own story. A reminder that even in the darkest of places, hope can bloom anew.